Hello traders, and welcome to our post-week market review / start of week technical analysis video. So jumping straight into things here from where the market opened up, which, as you know from our previous videos, it was this candlestick here. Originally we saw price begin bearish, with price eventually stopping at around 3,962. From there, price pushed back up to go and test these previous highs of this overall consolidation area, and then price absolutely plummeted throughout the Tuesday, all the way down to finding support at around 3,930. From there, price consolidated on the lower time frames, indicating to us that we were going to see a significant rejection off of this level, and as you can see, we did in fact see that. Price then pushed up to around 3,980, and then we started creating higher highs and higher lows. And as we spoke about in our midweek technical analysis video, we spoke about price. Our overall bias for the market was bullish, indicated by this arrow here, and we did expect price to go and push into this point of interest of around 4,005. As you can see, we did, and we pushed into this point of interest. We tested it as a resistance, and then price dropped back down, testing on one of our points of interest at around 3,977. Again, from there, same sort of thing as we saw here, consistent higher highs and higher lows, until we sort of created this double top here at around 4,008 within our point of interest, and then price pushed down, tested just at 4,000, rejected off, and then throughout the market open and the start of today so far, we have seen an enormous bullish move, carrying price all the way back up into this main consolidation area from the week before last. So what does that say for gold? As you know, we spoke about in our midweek technical analysis that we recognized a pattern. We recognized that price was making big bearish drops followed by consolidation, big bearish drops followed by consolidation, and the next big bearish drop started upon market open. So for example, let me just go to where market opened. So for example here, so we had this big bearish drop, consolidation finished, the new week got started, we saw that bearish drop, price continued. But as you can see, instead of that bearish drop starting upon the market open of this week, we have just seen continued consolidation. Until now, we have seen a significant break of this consolidation, carrying price into this area that we are currently trading within. So what does that mean for gold? So let's just conclude it's sort of our post week. So overall, market has been consolidation. We've seen sideways movement, we've seen fluctuation between a top side and bottom side support, a couple liquidation grabs with resting liquidity, and price has just moved sideways, and we have now had a significant break of our main point of interest that we was taken into account in our midweek, which was 4,050. So looking at the current market, looking at the current price action that we can see, it does look like that we are seeing some sort of halt at this area. What I'll do is I'll go to our minute 5 and just give you a cleaner example of what I'm talking about, just so you can see price action a little bit better. So as you can see, we saw the same sort of thing happen here. So we had a top sort of formed, price then sort of created a bullish wedge or a bullish flag, with price eventually breaking out of this top side resistance indicated by this trend line, and then continued on bullish. So it looks like we're seeing the same sort of thing here. If we go ahead and sort of mark in our trend lines, the same thing as we just did there. So we are testing on that support. We're going to expect to see price push back up to this level, and break through the previous highs. If we see price break through these highs here, we're going to expect price to continue on bullish, perhaps into one of our points of interest that we have marked in from our previous weeks. So that's sort of our low time frame analysis. I'll go ahead and delete this now just so it's not in the way. We'll go ahead and have a look at minute 15, and I'll show you that there is some sort of some signs of resistance as of right now. As you can see, price is starting to sort of fizzle out, volume is starting to drop within this entire area here, and we're just sort of looking at a couple points of interest. So for example, we have this sort of bottom side support, and this sort of like top side resistance. So price is sort of moving in between these wedges right now, and if we see price break below this wedge, then we're going to expect price to come back to this sort of consolidation after this initial push. If price breaks above it, then obviously we're going to expect price to continue somewhere to our next point of interest, which will probably be around the 4,115 level. But what I will say, and as I have spoken about, anything above 4,000 is we're going to consider bullish, and anything below 4,000 we're going to consider bearish. So with that being said, I do believe now the price will continue on bullish. We've had that steep drop, and we sort of had that initial sort of shoulder. The reason why I'm calling it a shoulder is if I go to a higher time frame, let's go to our hour 4. You know what, go even to our daily, you can see a head and shoulders pattern starting to form with our shoulder here, our head here, and then our second shoulder forming here. So we do sort of have a inverted head and shoulders pattern. And obviously, if you wanted to, you can mark in your neckline. So we have our neckline there. We're waiting for price to be broken. But if you look at the higher time frames, obviously the lower time frames, it looks a little bit more vicious. But you can see that it just looks like normal price action on our for our daily time frame. Sorry, you can see prices pushed up. We created a high, and then we're creating a higher low. Price has successfully created a higher low, and price is now pulling away from that level. So the only thing that we're going to expect now is continued bullish momentum on the higher time frames. However, obviously, we're going to see on the lower time frames, we're going to see bearish. We're going to see a lot of confusing price action. Obviously, what I've just showed you on the daily is this entire move up, and then this is the higher low that's being created. But if you look on our 15-minute, it looks quite scary because you've seen a sort of 3,000 pip move or over 3,000 pip move from this original all-time high here, and it looks like, okay, prices may be becoming bearish. But that's why it's so important to actually take into consideration your higher time frames, because obviously, like I said to you before, the higher the time frame, the stronger the information. So looking at our daily time frame, we know that this is solid information. This is information that we can actually base our bias off of, and our overall bias for this week will continue to be bullish. However, we will most likely see some bearish drops. A bearish drop that we could potentially see today, and by the looks of it, we are going to see, is price to push down to either this level here or continue on, and then sort of perform a break and retest pattern on these highs here, and then reject off and push to one of our points of controls that we have marked in from a previous level. The reason why I state this level is because, as you can see, this is sort of that area where we saw most of the we saw price reject off of the most as resistance in this overall consolidation area. And if I sort of drag it into the past as well, you can see that price has tested within this area a few times. If I drag it even further back, you can see that we have seen some sort of support tested at this level. So that's definitely going to be a point that we're going to look at if price does continue bearish or start becoming bearish from this level here. We're obviously looking at our first point of interest around 4,060, 4,050, and then we're going to look at price to be held up as a support on these previous highs that tested as a resistance. So overall for this week, we're gonna sort of give a bias that gold is going to be bullish. Obviously, we are now in this consolidation area, so what we could potentially see is we could see some retracements. We could see, like I just said, price to pull down to that 4,050 area. We could see price continue bullish from this level, but what we could see is we could start to see some continued consolidation in and around the week before last's area. So we could sort of see the same thing mirrored on this side before we then eventually see that break of the top side, and then price pushes on to go and test all-time highs. One thing I will do then, as we always do, I will just sort of drag in a fixed range volume profile, and we'll have a look at any levels that we may have missed from our midweek technical analysis. So we'll just sort of start from our Thursday. Let's just start from here, and I'll drag it to the future. So we have we have our value area low, our point of control, and our value area high. As you can see, the value area high is the place that price ended up testing as resistance and then eventually broke through. And as you can see, volume is very minimal at this area now. If I go ahead and take another fixed range volume profile and just sort of measure from these areas here, you can see that the point of control within the markets right now is in and around this level. So you can see buyers and sellers are fighting at this level. Sellers are fighting to push price back down, and buyers are fighting to continue to push price. As you can see, price has sort of rejected off of this value area high, as there is literally no volume at that level. And then our value area low is sort of down here. If I go to our minute 5, you can see that in a little bit more detail. And you can see that the original we saw that bullish push, price came back down this value area low, so no one really wanted to enter the markets. We saw our point of control buyers push up price, and then we see our value area high here. So obviously that's our higher time frame, and then it changes a little bit when you go sorry, that's our lower time frame. It changes a little bit when you go to the higher time frame. So that being said, it's pretty much it. Overall bias is going to continue to be bullish overall, especially on the daily time frame. If I go ahead and just zoom out real quick. You can see that we are seeing bullish momentum now. The size of this candlestick is enormous for the start of a week, so it's looking really promising. Obviously, the main area that we're going to want to see price pass past is this sort of level here. So anything around sort of 4,140. If we see price trading at around, let's say 4,170, we're going to accept that this is a higher high and a higher low, and then price is going to continue on bullish and smash past that previous all-time high of around 4,380. So with that being said, that's pretty much it for our post-week / start of week technical analysis video. As always, I hope you have all enjoyed. I will catch you in our midweek technical analysis. And yeah, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Peace.